လာပါရှင်ကျမပြောရတာကိုကြားရလားရှင်โอเคကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ဟုတ်အဲဆိုဒီနေ့ကျမတို့ webinar လေးကိုပေါ့နော်စလိုက်ပါတော့မယ်အခု participants တွေလည်းရောက်နေပြီဆိုတော့လေအချိန်လည်းမလင့်ခင်ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ webinar လေးကိုစလိုက်ပါတော့မယ်ရှင်ဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါကျမတို့ဒီ UNESCO ပေါ့နော်မြန်မာပညာရေး online ဟောပြောပွဲရနေပြီးတော့ကြိုဆိုပါတယ်ဒီတက်ရောက်မဲ့ဆရာဆရာမတွေအားလုံးလည်းတော်တော်များများရှိနေပြီဆိုတော့ပေါ့နော်ကျွန်မစလိုက်တော့မယ်နော်ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျွန်မကတော့ဆရာမမတီရီအောင်ဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဟောပြောပွဲမှာတော့facilitator အနေနဲ့ကျွန်မတာဝန်ယူဆောင်ရွက်ပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဟောပြောပွဲခေါင်းစဉ်ကတော့ဒီဘာသာစကားစုံပညာရေးဖြင့်ပေါ့နော်တည်မှုအတွေ့အကြုံများကိုအဓိပ္ပာယ်ပြေဝစေခြင်းပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကျွန်မတို့ဆွေးနွေးတင်ပြမှုတွေမစခင်ပေါ့နော်ဟောပြောပွဲနဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့အဓိကအချက်အချို့ကိုကျွန်မပြောပြလိုပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဟောပြောပွဲကတော့ကျမတို့ဒီမြန်မာ teacher platform ပေါ့နော်platform မှာ curriculum and pedagogy ဆိုတဲ့online course ပေါ့နော်အဲဒီ online course တစ်ခုဖြစ်တဲ့ဒီဘာသာစကားစုံပညာရေးဖြင့်သင်မှုအတွေ့အကြုံများကိုအဓိပ္ပာယ်ပြေဝစေခြင်းဆိုတဲ့ online course နဲ့ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ချိတ်ဆက်လှုပ်ဆောင်ထားတာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ကြလို့ဒီနေ့ပေါ့နော်တက်ရောက်တဲ့ဆရာဆရာမတွေထဲမှာဒီ online course ကိုတက်ရောက်ပြီးတဲ့ဆရာဆရာမတွေအနေနဲ့ဆိုရင်လည်းဒီဟောပြောပွဲမှာပေါ့နော်ဒီဆရာမနဲ့အတူတူဆွေးနွေးမဲ့အခွင့်အရေးရရှိမှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ဆရာမကိုမေးချင်တဲ့မေးခွန်းတွေရှိလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပေါ့နော်တိုက်ရိုက်မေးမြန်းနိုင်မဲ့အခွင့်အရေးရရှိမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်တကယ်လို့သင်တန်းမတက်ရသေးဘူးဆိုရင်လည်းကျမတို့ဒီ MPT ကပေါ့နော်ဒီ online course လေးကိုတက်ရောက်ပေးဖို့အတွက်တိုက်တွန်းလိုပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ online ဟောပြောပွဲကိုတော့အဓိကအားဖြင့်ကျမတို့အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုဆွေးနွေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့မြန်မာလိုတိုက်ရိုက်ဘာသာပြန်ဆိုပေးမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့နားထောင်ခြင်းနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဘာသာစကားကိုဒီ screen ရဲ့အောက်ဘက်မှာရှိတဲ့ဒီ interpretation icon လေးပေါ့နော်နှိပ်ပြီးတော့မိမိနှစ်သက်ရာဘာသာစကားကိုရွေးချယ်ပြီးတော့နားဆင်နိုင်ပါတယ်တကယ်လို့အခက်အခဲတစ်ခုခုရှိတယ်ဆိုရင်လည်းဒီ Q&A box ကလေးရပေါ့နော် Q&A icon လေးကနေပြီးတော့နှိပ်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ကိုမေးခွန်းများမေးမြန်းပြီးတော့အကူအညီတောင်းခံနိုင်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဟောပြောပွဲကိုတော့ကျမတို့ recording လုပ်ထားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ပြီးသွားရင်တော့ကျမတို့ဒီ UNESCO ပေါ့နော် YouTube channel မှာပြန်လည်လေ့လာနိုင်အောင်လို့တင်ဆက်ပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဦးဆုံးအနေနဲ့တော့ဒီဟောပြောပွဲအစီအစဉ်ကိုကျွန်မပြောကြားလိုပါတယ်ယနေ့အစီအစဉ်မှာတော့အစီအစဉ်1အနေနဲ့ပေါ့နော် UNESCO မြန်မာ Project Office ကcurriculum specialist ဖြစ်တဲ့Miss ဟေချောင်းကန်ကနေပြီးတော့အဖွင့်အမှာစကားပြောကြားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်အစီအစဉ်2ကတော့ဒီ MLE specialist ဖြစ်တဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဆရာမ Miss Anna ချကွက်ကနေပြီးတော့ဆွေးနွေးတင်ပြမှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့အစီအစဉ်3မှာတော့ Q&A session ဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့ရဲ့မေးခွန်းတွေကိုပြန်လည်ဖြေကြားပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်အစီအစဉ်4ကတော့ကျမတို့ UNESCO ကနေပြီးတော့အပိတ်အမှာစကားပြောကြားပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်လက်ကြောင့်မို့ပေါ့နော်အစီအစဉ်1အနေနဲ့ကျမဒီ UNESCO မြန်မာ Project Office ကပေါ့နော် Curriculum Specialist ဖြစ်တဲ့ Miss ဟေချောင်းကန်ကိုအဖွင့်အမှာစကားပြောကြားဖို့အတွက်ဖိတ်ခေါ်ချင်ပါတယ် May I warmly invite you Hee Chao to give opening remark thank you
Thank you Thiri Minglaba teachers good morning everyone I'm so very excited to have each and every one of you joining today's webinar on enhancing meaningful learning experience through multilingual education. This topic of multilingualism and education is extremely timely, highly relevant, and fundamental for Myanmar, celebrating its diversity with more than 135 ethnic groups and over 100 languages spoken throughout the country. In fact, we can all witness the significance of this topic by just looking around and see how all the teachers of different sectors are participating in this webinar. Well, maybe you can see from your end, but I can see that there are more than 100 participants here with us, most likely with one heart and one mind, understanding the critical role of multilingual education in Myanmar to ensure that every learner in Myanmar is provided with equal opportunity to succeed in this world. Over the past 70 years, UNESCO has been advocating mother tongue-based and multilingual education as key to fulfilling quality, equitable, and inclusive learning. Multilingual education isn't just about teaching and learning about multiple languages. Rather, it's about fostering inclusivity, cultural diversity, and peaceful coexistence, and also improving learning outcomes and engagement of all students, as well as their families and communities of various linguistic backgrounds, especially those groups that speak non-dominant, minority, and indigenous languages. Understanding and addressing the needs, UNESCO STEM project in Myanmar has been committed to promoting MTB-MLE in teacher education sector by carrying out policy reviews, developing curriculum and teaching resources, both online and offline, implementing capacity building activities, and also making some of the online courses available in different ethnic languages. This webinar as well is organized to create a space, an opportunity to discuss the ways in which multilingual education can benefit Myanmar learners and further explore various strategies and case studies for teachers that can be adapted into classrooms and the learning context. Well, I hope everyone here is as excited as I am. On behalf of UNESCO STEM team, we hope this session will be a great learning experience for all participants, and very much looking forward to the engaging and meaningful conversation ahead. Again, thank you all for your participation. Over to you, Lily.
Thank you so much, Hee-jang, for your inspiring and encouraging opening remark. So အစီအစဉ်နဲ့အနေနဲ့ကျမတို့ရဲ့ဆရာမပေါ့နော် MLE ဆရာမဖြစ်တဲ့ Miss Anna Chagwat ကနေပြီးတော့ဆွေးနွေးတင်ပြမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာမကိုမဖိတ်ခေါ်ခင်ပေါ့နော်ကျမဆရာမရဲ့ဒီပညာရေးဆိုင်ရာအတွေ့အကြုံတွေကိုအတင်းချုံပေါ့နော်ပြောပြချင်ပါတယ်ဆရာမကတော့ဒီဆရာအတတ်တင်ပညာရေးနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့လုပ်ကင်ဆောင်ရွက်နေတဲ့ပညာရေးအတိုင်ပင်ခံတဦးဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာမကမြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆရာတွေရဲ့ဆရာအတတ်ပညာဒီလေ့ကျင့်သင်ကြားခြင်းနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်အဖွဲ့အစည်းပေါင်းများစွာနဲ့လုပ်ကင်ဆောင်ရွက်ဖူးတဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံရှိပါတယ်ဆရာမသင်တန်းနည်းပြအနေနဲ့၎င်းပေါ့နော်ဒီပညာရေးအကြံပေးပညာရှင်အနေနဲ့၎င်းပေါ့နော်6နှစ်ကြာလုပ်ကင်ဆောင်ရွက်ခဲ့တဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံတွေရှိပါတယ်အထူးသဖြင့်တော့ဆရာမဟာဒီ RISE ပေါ့နော်ပညာရေးအဖွဲ့အစည်းဒီစာချနာ CPE ပြီးတော့မွန်ပညာရေးကော်မတီပေါ့နော်အဲ့လိုမျိုးအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေနဲ့ပူးပေါင်းပြီးတော့ဒီပညာရေးဆိုင်ရာအလေးကျင့်တွေတိုးတက်ကောင်းမွန်မြတ်မာဖို့အတွက်လှုပ်ဆောင်ခဲ့ပါတယ်ဆရာမဟာဒီတာတူညီမျှမှုနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ပူးပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်တည်ယူမှုမှာအထူးစိတ်အားထက်သန်တဲ့သူတယောက်ဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ဒီနေ့မှာလည်းပေါ့နော်ဆရာမဟာဒီနေ့ webinar မှာသူမရဲ့အသိပညာတွေကိုပြန်လည်မျှဝေဖို့အတွက်စိတ်အားထက်သန်နေတဲ့သူတယောက်ဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာမအကြောင်းကိုကျွန်မအကျဉ်းချုပ်မိတ်ဆက်ပြီးပြီဆိုတော့ဆရာမကိုဖိတ်ခေါ်ချင်ပါတယ် May I kindly invite you Anna to begin your discussion please thank you over to you Anna
Okay, great. So hello everyone and welcome. I am happy to see so many people and I am excited to have this opportunity today to share some information and ideas about MLE and MTB-MLE. I am hopeful that you will also feel free to share any questions that you have and to share any ideas. This webinar is organized to encourage participation, and so please take the opportunities in the chat and in the different activities we have today to participate. I'm going to share my screen. UNESCO team, I will let you tell me if there's any issues with the technology.
No issue at all, Anna.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. So to start with, I'm sure many of you have already perhaps seen these before if you've done the e-learning course, but I wanted to go over what we'll be doing today and what kind of information we'll be looking at today. So these are the objectives for today. We'll define MLE and MTB-MLE. We'll look at some of the benefits and why MLE is important. We'll briefly look at some of the different theories that support MLE. We will also understand some strategies for how you can use MLE in your classroom. and we will look at a case study of MTB-MLE so that you understand a little bit better what it looks like in practice. And then just so you know how we've divided up today's session, there's two parts. The first part is a little bit more theoretical, more definitions, more explanations. And then the second part is more practical, and it will really be about how to use MLE in the classroom and how to develop teaching and learning resources for MLE in your classroom. So part one, some of the questions will focus around what is MLE and what is MTB-MLE, why is it important? And again, what are the theories that help us to understand these concepts? Part two is more looking at strategies and teaching and learning resources. So let's get started. I'm sure many of you may already know this, but I wanted to go over the definitions of MLE first. MLE, you'll hear me just say it in the short form. It stands for multilingual education, and this is an education system or an education method that uses two or more languages in teaching and learning. So there are many different ways to do this. There are many different approaches we can use. Today, the main approach we'll be talking about is called MTB-MLE, and MTB-MLE stands for Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education. Mother tongue means the first language that a student learns, the first language that you know. It is usually also called the home language. So it is usually the language that a student starts with in their home. For this presentation, you will see sometimes we will use the initials MT. So that stands for mother tongue. And you may also see that we use the initials L2 to mean a language that is the official school language. So that's the language that is usually a national language or the government language. And this is usually the main language that is used in school. Often in Myanmar, this is going to be Burmese. So those are some terms that we'll be using: MLE, MTB, MLE, and then L2 for official school language. And just to get us started on thinking about these different ideas, I wanted to give you a chance to participate. So I want to find out from the participants, what is your mother tongue? There is a QR code here. We're going to use a website called Mentimeter. So if you are able to either use the QR code, or I can give you the website, and I will collect information about your mother tongue. What is your mother tongue that way? I give you a few minutes to try with the QR code, and then I will go on the website to show you. So I think you are probably familiar with this way of responding. You have the website here, and you can use the code, or you can also use the QR code. We see everybody's response come up as they enter it in, and the most popular responses are going to be the ones that are in the biggest font. The lesser popular responses will be smaller. So that's great. Thank you for responding. And I'm just going to give a timer on this. I know we have a limited time today, so I'll just give one more minute. We'll use this website a few times, so you can remember the code and the website. It's great. So we see that the most popular response is Burmese, Myanmar. I'm sorry, I don't read Myanmar language, so I don't know what that says, but I'm guessing it also says Myanmar. We also see a lot of different ethnic languages: Shan, Mon, Rakhine, Karen, Kachin, Arabic. Okay, good. So I'm just going to stop it for now. Up. Thanks for participating and putting in your answers so we can see some of the way that our group what our group looks like today. We can see what kind of languages was our group's mother tongue. So mostly Burmese, Myanmar, but you can see that some other words are quite big: Karen, Rakhine, Rohingya. So we see that there's a lot of people who have different mother tongues and quite a variety. As you know, we said at the beginning of this webinar, Myanmar has a large group, very many different ethnic groups, and each of those ethnic groups, of course, has their own language. So we have a great diversity of languages and mother tongues in Myanmar. And now I want to focus a little bit on how that compares to the school languages. So I'm going to ask you again to use, I can put the QR code if you need the QR code, to respond and think about, okay, was your mother tongue the same as the official school language, or was it different from the official school language? So now I'm talking about your personal experience. So when you went to school, what was your situation? Well, we can start with just, grade school. And okay, great. Thanks for responding. So far we can see that most people, their mother tongue and the official school language were the same. I'm going to give you a minute again to answer. If you have any difficulties, please let the UNESCO team know, and we can find a way to help you participate if you're having any problems. Okay, so that's great. We see how our group falls on this question. We see that a majority of people, their mother tongue and the official school language was different. So 37 responses, and we see that 27 responses, the mother tongue and the official school language was the same. So that's interesting. I wanted you to start to think about, and maybe you can consider what it would be like to go to school when the mother tongue, when the language that you are using at home is different from the official school language. I'm going to go back to my presentation. So I wanted, if this was your situation, I think you can remember what that felt like. If that wasn't your situation and you spoke the official school language at home and there was no transition for you, then maybe you can try to imagine what that would be like and what kind of problems that or challenges students might face who, when they go to school, they do not understand, they do not speak the language that is being used in school. According to a lot of research that's been done, students who have a different mother tongue than the official school language often face different barriers. It's more difficult to participate. It's more difficult to continue in their education schooling. They often feel frustrated. They often feel left out. It can pose a lot of challenges, and that's really the reason why today we talk about MLE and we talk about MTB-MLE, because we want to find a way to, of course, include everyone in our education systems. So some of the benefits of MLE, like we said, it promotes equality, inclusion, especially when we are looking at participation of different minority groups. MLE is really important in making sure that everyone can have access to education and that if they speak a different language, they can still participate fully just like anybody else in the education system. MLE is also important because if a different language is spoken at home, it connects the home experience and the school experience. So this is really important for students' confidence, for students applying what they learn at school, also at home. MLE is also important because it, similar to the point above, it offers parents and community members who maybe if they don't speak the official school language, if other languages are included, it gives them a chance to participate in their child's education or in the education systems of their community. And then the last thing that's important that's a benefit of MLE is that it allows students to learn to read and write the official school language. So often if students are coming in and they, are only familiar with their mother tongue, they are asked to speak, to read the official school language very quickly, and they are not given enough time to really learn, and they are not given enough time to develop their vocabulary. So different MLE systems, and especially MTB-MLE, helps students slowly learn these concepts and slowly learn to read and write, so that it gives them a chance to be more successful in their education. So these are some of the benefits and also some of the reasons why MLE is so important. Again, I wanted to take a second and check in with you. I wanted to find out some reasons why you feel that MLE and MTB-MLE are important. So this can also be connected to maybe some of the reasons why you decided to sign up for this webinar today. Why do you think it's important that we discuss these topics? There's the QR code, but I'll also give you the chance to respond here. So you can just write your response in English, or you can write your response in Myanmar, and I'll read it later, about just what is your personal feeling about why it's so important to include these different languages in education today. Should I put the QR code in case you need it? So I know this one requires a little bit more time, and I'll just read some of the responses as they come in. So to support the language barriers of students, to allow equal access and participation, to support children, to not be barriers, to include diversity, important for national reconciliation. The minorities can feel that there's no longer discrimination. Yeah, these are all great ideas to allow students to be fully participate. More opportunities for diverse ethnic groups. Those are great. So this is interesting because it's also reasons that more reasons than I listed. So it's ideas that for example, language is the core of a culture. If a language disappears, the culture will disappear as well. So this is another important idea that MLE and MTB-MLE are important because they are important for cultural preservation. They are important to keep your culture alive. That's a good idea. More meaningful engagement and better comprehension for academic performance. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to give you one more minute to respond. More inclusive education and value diversity with no discrimination. Yeah, exactly. So these are all great ideas. I'm sorry again that I can't read Burmese, but I will find out later. And yeah, I think you've all highlighted a lot of really important knowledge, give equal rights, develop to the full potential, to be more effective in teaching and communication. Learning in their mother tongue allows students to understand concepts more deeply and think critically. Yeah, all of these are correct. And I think, yeah, you've all really understood why MLE why it is important. I'm going to go back to my presentation. It's interesting to hear your ideas, to think, for me to see what you understand, and also your perspective on these topics. So thanks for your participation. Still in understanding MLE, I want to look at some of the theories that are the foundation for MLE. There's many language theories, many ways to understand how students learn a language, how they use a language, but these are just 3 that I've highlighted here. So language acquisition means how a student uses a language and how they learn a language. So these are different theories around how students do that. The first one is called Common Underlying Proficiency Theory. And this is a theory that says what we learn, ideas that we learn in one language are not lost when we learn another language. So practically speaking, so for example, if we are learning how to count 1, 2, 3 in the mother tongue first, when a student starts to learn Burmese, or the official school language, they will still have the knowledge of what are numbers, what is counting. The knowledge, when you acquire a new language, you don't lose any knowledge. So this means that the more languages you learn, sometimes in the past, people thought students would get confused, but students always have that foundation of knowledge, of understanding, and different languages just allow students to reach or to access that knowledge differently, but the knowledge is always there. Another theory that is important is sociocultural theory. And this is the theory that when we learn, we are influenced by every social interaction we have and the culture around us. So when students are learning, they're influenced by the language that is around them. So if that's their home language, their mother tongue at home, that's through everyday interactions with their families, with their neighbors, with the communities, and also the influence. So that's a part of the culture that influences them, and they are also influenced. Sorry, let me try to explain that again. I got a little bit confused, but they are also influenced by social interaction, and they are also influenced by their culture and how they learn. And language is a part of culture. So how students learn is very dependent on language. And when a student, when a mother tongue or when a student's home language is used in education, like we said before, it allows students to better situate their learning and better connect their learning to what's happening also outside of school. The last theory that I wanted to look at is called Translanguaging Theory. And this is the theory that students can use multiple languages, multiple languages to construct meaning, to construct understanding. So all of these languages work together in learning. It's not like when a student for example, if you have a class and a student, the class is in Burmese, the official school language, and a student answers maybe in a mix of their home language and the official school language, that's okay. Students using multiple languages to express themselves, sometimes mixing languages, sometimes switching between languages. That should be supported. That should be encouraged. It means that they are learning. It means that they are growing. So there's no languages don't compete against each other. The more languages there are and the more a student is able to express themselves, the better they can learn. So those are the language acquisition theories that are important in MLE. And that's our introduction. I want to turn now a little bit more to what MLE and what MTB-MLE look like in practice and in the classroom. So how do we really use these strategies? How do we apply this? There's two major ways to apply MTB-MLE. One way is to use the mother tongue as a subject in school. So that means just like students learn English, they're going to be learning the mother tongue in the classroom. And then there's also a second way, and that's using the mother tongue really as the language of instruction. And that means the language that the teacher uses for the whole lesson and in every subject. So I want to show you a little bit of a model of how this works, what this looks like in practice. And then I want to also talk about a few different strategies, a few different activities you can do to implement this model. I know that maybe you might not have the choice to implement this model. Usually this is left up to school administrators, but I think it's important for you to be aware that this is how a lot of MTB-MLE systems are implemented in different contexts in different countries. And there are systems, especially in community schools in Myanmar, that have implemented MTB-MLE like this. So here are the different steps. You see that a student starts in the younger years. They start with the mother tongue. Everything is in the mother tongue. Slowly we expand their vocabulary. Eventually, in step 2, we start to teach reading and writing, and the school language is introduced gradually. So first, just by speaking, and then by teaching reading and writing, and eventually, all of the classes, everything that is taught is going to be in the official school language. So here I'm talking about step 4, and the mother tongue is only going to be used just to support. So I want to go a little bit more step by step. Also, I would like to invite you, if you have any ideas for each of these steps, activities in the classroom, I think you can feel free to do that in the chat or in the question answer box. So the first step is that, like I said, we start only in the mother tongue. So the first step is all about developing a student's confidence in using the mother tongue. The mother tongue is the language of instruction. It's the only language that teachers use in the classroom. And this is for students when they just arrive. So we are thinking of grade 1, kindergarten if your school system has that. But for the very beginning of schooling, mostly the activities are going to be focused on speaking, developing vocabulary, establishing meaning. So if you are thinking about using the mother tongue and developing that confidence, developing students' ease with using it at school, what kind of activities? What do you think? Do you have any ideas of activities that you can do? I will maybe look at the Q&A. You can feel free to suggest your ideas in the Q&A box on different activities. So I can give you some examples also. When we are just learning on developing that vocabulary, we can mostly, we are doing this through games, through songs in the mother tongue, through, we can use flashcards, we can use pictures, just anything to increase the vocabulary, to get students to speak. Those kind of activities would be good. Yep, I see some ideas in the Q&A box. Pictures, flashcards, poems. Yeah, color naming games, stock, any games also that involve physical movement. Those are great for just those beginner learners. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your participation. I want to look at the second one. So this is when we are moving from just speaking. We are starting to learn to teach students about reading and writing in the mother tongue. So we are focused on literacy. We are focused more not only just on increasing participation, but also accuracy, right? So students being able to use the mother tongue correctly. And this is also the time when very slowly we will introduce the official school language. So we start with very practical words, with words that students use in the classroom every day. Maybe words for giving instructions, objects in the classroom, and we start to build their vocabulary of the official school language very slowly and just a little bit at a time. So maybe you have some ideas of activities we could use when we are reading and writing in the mother tongue, and also maybe some activities we can use when we are introducing the official school language. I'll give you a few minutes if if people have some ideas. So when we are, teaching reading and writing, an important element is using stories, allowing students to think creatively. I see somebody said storytelling. Also using different games on the chalkboard, on the whiteboard, different, games like racing to see who can, a teacher saying a word and then the students racing to see if they can read that word and point to it on the whiteboard or the chalkboard. So just all of those beginning reading and writing activities. Yeah, sorry, this one isn't on Mentimeter. I just put it, you can just answer in the Q&A box if you have some ideas. Yeah, somebody said matching pictures and sounds. Yeah, flashcards, again, are really great for beginning to read. Okay. So now I want to move on to this third step. So this is when we begin teaching reading and writing in the official school language. At this time, we see the mother tongue and the official school language are really used almost in parallel. They are used together, and depending on the teacher and the teacher's abilities to speak the M2, the MT, and the L2, they can go back and forth, but students for sure should feel comfortable starting to use both of them equally. And they are going to begin reading and writing in the official school language. Slowly, they're going to be building little by little their academic vocabulary. We usually do this by first introducing a subject or an idea in the mother tongue, making sure that students understand it there first, and then we will translate it into the official school language. At least this is what we do in the beginning to make sure that students really understand. So again, if you have any ideas, so some of the reading and writing activities that you can do are similar to the ones that we saw before when we were talking about the mother tongue. But if you think by this stage the students are a little bit older, any ideas for activities? So like we said before, there's a lot of any writing activities, writing games, practice writing. This is again where having materials, books if possible, so that students start to read and especially read independently. It's important to encourage that at this stage. Yeah, you can have some translation games. You can ask students during this stage, you can ask them to translate. So for example, if you already have some stories in the mother tongue, you can ask them to start to translate them into the official school language. Narrative writing, jigsaw writing. Yeah, these are great ideas for this third step. And then the last step is when the official school language really becomes the language of instruction. It's the language that the teacher is using in the classroom for most of the lesson. We are really only using the MT when it is needed to support. So if, for example, some example activities are when the teacher wants to check understanding, they might check using the MT, or they might check and allow students to respond in the MT. Or sometimes when the teacher is trying to understand what the students already know from previous lessons, maybe they'll ask them, okay, you can explain, or you can discuss this in the MT, and then they will translate that back to the official school language. Those are just examples of different activities we'll use at this stage. Students should feel comfortable and confident in themselves in using and understanding both the MT and the L2. The goal is that you start to develop bilingual students. So students that are comfortable using one language, the same as developing students that are comfortable using another. Okay. So I'm looking, sorry, I was just looking at some of your answers. Good. So I think this was for maybe for but it can apply, these are activities that we can use also for this step, project presentation, role plays, competitions. Yeah, these are good strategies for teaching reading and writing. But of course, as students go further in their schooling, this is also activities that they can do only in the official school language. So good, you have good ideas. And this gives you a little bit of different strategies that you can use in the classroom and a path that you can take when you are trying to do MTB-MLE in the class. I want to look now at an example. So thanks for your participation. I'm going to look at I want to look at a case study of MTB-MLE. And I've chosen the case of the Philippines because this is a really interesting example. It's the only country in Southeast Asia that's implemented MTB-MLE at a national level. So this is the only country that has a policy in their education system that all schools need to do MTB-MLE. What this looks like. So this was started in 2013. Yep, 2013. And what it looks like is mother tongue is used as the language of instruction for kindergarten through grade 3. Only the mother tongue. And then slowly Filipino, which is one of the official school languages, and English. They have 2 official school languages in the Philippines. These are introduced in slowly, just step by step, like I described before, in grade 4 to 6. And then eventually Filipino and English are used as the languages of instruction at secondary school. So they do that same transition that I described step by step. And I've also chosen the Philippines because it's interesting. Now, they've been trying to do this for 10 years. We can start to see some of the results, and we can also start to see some of the challenges to implementing this. Oops. So how did the Philippines do this? They've selected 19 mother tongue languages. So the Philippines is similar to Myanmar. There are a lot of different community languages, a lot of ethnic languages, and they had to choose, and they chose 19. Then they created resources to support that teaching in that language, and then they did a large-scale teacher training to train teachers to teach in the mother tongue. So this is giving teachers training who maybe didn't speak the mother tongue, but also training teachers in different methods and strategies for MLE. And then just very briefly, I wanted to talk about some of the outcomes that we've seen. So like we said before, when we were talking about the benefits, we see that students have better comprehension, that students have better engagement, that they're more participatory, and that when we assess them, they have higher assessment scores than they used to. and better assessment scores than in schools where they don't have mother tongue MTB-MLE. And we also see that students are able to have that bilingual level where they are speaking 2 languages or even 3 languages fluently, and they can transfer the skills that they have in one language to another language. So that means if they have a certain level of reading and writing, they're able to do that in 2 or 3 languages. So this is some of the outcomes that we've seen. There's also been a lot of challenges in implementing this. So we will talk about those challenges. I want to do that a little bit later because I think those challenges are really, really relevant also when we are thinking about implementing MTB-MLE and MLE in Myanmar. So this is just to give you some background information on a case where we see MLE in practice. And again, we'll come back to it just at the end of our session. So I wanted to talk about, and I see that the questions are coming in a little bit about situations where maybe you are not able to totally implement that model. Maybe it's not up to you to make that decision of trying to change the education system, of trying to change how your school is teaching language. So there's also small things that you can do as a teacher to start to use MLE, MTB-MLE in the classroom. These are tools for adapting your teaching and your learning resources. So anything that you are using in the classroom to teach your students and anything your students are using to learn. So the first one is to use community-based resources. This is something you can do to encourage, again, that kind of bridge between the community and the school. It's also a really good tool that you can use. For example, if you are a teacher who is not so comfortable in the mother tongue, to use any community support. Maybe this is, for example, elders, local experts. You can invite them into the classroom to participate, or maybe even to teach the language, to tell stories in the language. Opening up your classroom that way is great. You can also go into the community by taking your students into different places where maybe they are speaking the mother tongue, but also where there are important elements, different cultural practices. That's also a part of MLE. Another really important learning and teaching resource is, of course, visual aids. So anything you can do in the classroom to show these different languages, to illustrate these different languages, these will help your students learn. So a lot of it is going to be, for example, posters in the classroom, maybe posters of the alphabet in the mother tongue, the alphabet in the official school language. Maybe also you can use posters of different objects, flashcards, like we said, illustrations, just making sure that you provide students with as many drawings as possible. Again, this is really important when they are learning that vocabulary. The vocabulary of the mother tongue, or also the vocabulary of the official school language. Another teaching and learning resource you can use is Realia. So this is real objects from real life that you can bring into your classroom that show different ideas, different concepts, clothing, food, items found in nature. All of these things you can bring in as the teacher, or better yet, you can ask students to bring in. And then these are really important tools for teaching vocabulary again, and for also always making sure that you are that bridge, that you provide the bridge between the home and the home learning environment and then the school learning environment. Another teaching and learning resource is storybooks or locally produced textbooks. So these are, maybe these are available or maybe they aren't available, but using these or getting students to create storybooks, this can be a really important idea for using MTB-MLE. There's also taking the textbooks that currently exist, that you are currently using, and you can adapt these textbooks. So we can translate these textbooks, so go from one language to another language. We can adapt the textbooks by including examples from the local culture. We can adapt the textbooks by simplifying the language, by by using examples also that are relevant to the traditions, to the different cultures that students bring into the classroom. We can make sure that we use visuals to illustrate the ideas of the textbooks. All of these are important ways to use the textbooks that we have, but to adapt them, to make them more suitable for MLE and to make them more suitable for MTB-MLE. I'm going to skip that one because I don't have enough time. So I want to take some time and I want to think about a case study. I want you to practice what you would think about, what you would do in this situation. So here's the case study. I'll read it in English and then I'll also post the version in Myanmar and Burmese so that you can read it in that language as well. So this is imagine a situation where you have a small village. There's a student, Momo. She grows up speaking with her family in their local language. As she grows older and helps her mom with shopping at the market, she notices that she can understand most people, but not everyone. And then when she is 5 years old, she goes to government school. On her first day, the teacher begins the lesson in a new language for Momo. She does not understand what this teacher is saying. She doesn't understand what she has to do. When the teacher asks students to stand up and introduce themselves, Momo does nothing and says nothing. When the teacher tries to write an example, Momo cannot read what it says. The teacher becomes frustrated. The teacher moves on to the next task. The teacher doesn't have time. And at the end of the day, Momo feels like she doesn't want to go back to school again. So I want you to think about imagine you are the teacher in this class and this is your student, Momo. What would you do to support her in her learning based on everything we have learned, based on everything we have seen? What kind of ideas would you have for reaching her and using MLE to make sure that she wants to come back to school again? I give you a few minutes and think about this. So I will go again. The answers are in Mentimeter. So if you want to respond. Sorry, that's just the timer that says that my time is up. But if we can just do the case study and go through the answers. Yep, I can show the QR code. So great, I see some good ideas. Also some ideas that we haven't discussed today, so that's really interesting. For example, arrange a buddy system. So sometimes when we have a student who cannot participate because of a language issue, we can pair them with a student who is very strong in the language, and we can maybe that student is confident in using both the MT and the official school language, so they can provide some translation and they can provide some explanation to the student. That's a really good way. The teacher can give extra time. Of course, that's often teachers don't have time. That would be the best if teachers had extra time. Making a special class. So this is another really interesting idea for MLE, is that in situations where maybe in the whole school you have a few students who all share a common mother tongue and who maybe don't have any knowledge of the official school language, you can maybe make a special class for them and they can go to it for maybe 1 hour of every day. You can take students from different classes or different grade levels, depending on if it's appropriate. And you can really put everybody who has the same level and the same mother tongue together and have a class that's just for them if your school allows. Okay, yep, I see some more interesting ideas about bringing in somebody from the community. And yeah, simplify the classroom language, peer support, pair work, group work. Yeah. Great. So using more pictures, facial expressions, connect with what she has known. Yeah, good. So trying to bridge the home learning and the school learning. Encourage her to introduce herself in her mother tongue. Sure. So this is also situations where maybe the teacher is not familiar with the mother tongue, and the student wants to express in the mother tongue. The teacher, like we said before, should feel free to allow the student to express themselves in that and encourage them. And even if the teacher doesn't 100% understand the mother tongue, they can still understand that, the student is the context. You still understand the context. You understand, okay, they are presenting themselves. And then if you want to understand, you can always ask another student to translate that back into the official school language. Relying on other teachers, other classmates. Yeah, these are excellent ideas. Body language, storybooks. Teachers should use bilinguals. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm just going to limit us to 1 more minute. Pairing the student with the, yeah. Yeah, people are talking about the importance of knowing the student's background, knowing their needs. That is important, and ideally, a teacher should, of course, find out about their students before they start to teach, and that includes finding out about your students' mother tongues. Yep, realia, of course, good. They should have good chemistry. Of course, the importance of being friendly, being patient, having an open attitude. This is also a really important part of languages, and like we talked about, allowing students to communicate in whatever language they feel comfortable and using multiple languages. A student also a teacher needs to also be open to doing that. They need to show that they support students in their doing that. So if that's being friendly, if that's being patient and understanding, it's really important for the teacher to have a positive attitude. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for your ideas. Those are really excellent. Do I have time to just quickly wrap up?
Sure, Anna.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So what I wanted to go back because I know that maybe in what you might be wondering about, what you will probably be thinking about and asking me about, is that there's a lot of challenges to implementing MTB-MLE. And the Philippines, they've seen a lot of these challenges. So, for example, there's so many mother tongues. There's not enough resources. There's not enough teachers who know these mother tongues to be able to have this and offer this to all the students. And 19, if you can imagine creating 19 textbooks for every one of these mother tongues, it's economically not possible. It's like physically to distribute this, it's not possible. It's a very, very difficult process. So the ways that teachers have adapted have been really interesting, and I think they're really important to highlight here. And these have come up. Some of you have mentioned these in your answers. So using community resources, relying not only on the outside community, but also your community of teachers. So teachers supporting each other. Maybe there's one teacher at your school who is really familiar with the mother tongue. So being able to rely on them, ask them questions. Also, for example, if you're in a teacher training program, the other teachers that are in your teacher training program, they might be really great resources for different languages. What we also saw in the Philippines is everyone is teachers using the internet to post their materials, to post their ideas, and they developed communities of practice. So they really supported each other in the resources and also in the different strategies. And then in the case of the Philippines, another important thing was to take a step-by-step approach. And that this change, it cannot happen overnight. You cannot change all the materials, all the teachers, all the methods. It has to happen very slowly. So taking it step by step, doing small adaptations to your teaching, to including these different resources. Doing it step by step is okay, and really making sure that you take time to think about, to plan, and you don't need to try to change the whole system in just one day. So these are some important elements from the Philippines that I thought we could learn from, and that might be useful for the Myanmar context. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Just to go over very briefly what we touched on, we learned about what is MLE, what is MTB-MLE, the benefits of MLE. We learned about some theories that are the foundation of MLE, and we looked at a model for what MTB-MLE can look like when it's implemented, and some strategies that teachers can use in the classroom. So yeah, now I'd like to get to the Q&A. If that's okay, I think we have a list of questions that you have from your from the whole webinar, but also if you want to ask more questions, you can feel free to do that in the chat. And I will try to answer as best as possible. Okay. So I will read the questions, some of the questions out. So here's a question about what if the teacher's mother tongue is different from the student's mother tongue? How do we manage that? So this is a good question, and I think we've come across different ways. So communities of practice, relying on other teachers maybe in your school, and also the outside community to participate. Like I said before, and like we saw in the example of the Philippines, the internet. So finding resources that maybe are available. Perhaps there's videos of songs in the mother tongue you can use. Perhaps there's a recording of people speaking in the mother tongues. People speaking in the mother tongue that you can then bring into the classroom. So adapting some of those resources. The teacher is one resource to use in education, but there are other resources to be used. So thinking of some of those different resources is good. Then we saw other strategies, allowing peer learning. So that is another way to use the mother tongue if the teacher doesn't speak it. And sometimes also we can, I mentioned before, forming different groups that, for example, if a group of students have a mother tongue in different classes, you can make a special class that meets maybe one time a week with another teacher who has that knowledge of that mother tongue. And then in that special class, they can practice or maybe go over ideas or concepts that were difficult to understand in the official school language. You can create kind of a special class for them. Another question here about, I'm not exactly sure what is meant by mother tongue, thought that bored and disrespected. So maybe touching again on the importance of the teacher attitude. Of course, there's language carries a lot of different weight. Language is tied to culture. Language is sometimes also tied to power. So we have to be careful. If students are speaking in a language that is different from the teacher, it can feel scary for the teacher. It can feel like they're talking, maybe you think they are talking about you, and you don't know what is being said about you. I think the best thing is to assume your students are kind and respectful people, to explain to your students the importance of being kind and respectful, and that language is a part of that. And to just approach everyone, students using different languages in a positive manner. Be as inclusive as possible, be as patient as possible. Yeah, I think. Let me see some other questions up. There's a question about how Myanmar is doing with MLE. So what is the current state of MLE? What is the country level of implementation? So that's a good question. I'm worried that I don't have enough time to go into that, but I'll provide some resources and some follow-up after the webinar that that describes what the current state of MLE is in at the national level. And then here's a question, another interesting question about what if more than one MT is used in the classroom. And that's, again, when I touched on those strategies, those peer learning strategies, breaking the classroom into groups. Those are two strategies that you can use if you have more than one mother tongue. Also making a special class. If you find that a lot of students in your class, in your school, have the same mother tongue, making a class for them, maybe just to have that once a week or once a day, if it's possible, is beneficial for them to use their mother tongue. Of course, also if you have more than one mother tongue, and the teacher can speak, that's best, but you can also rely a lot on those other resources, posters, and being able to illustrate and write, provide visuals of the different objects or different concepts in different languages around the classroom. That can be really useful. And then I think I will just do one last question. How do we manage to finish the schedule, curriculum, and the MLE approach in the classroom? Because the time is constant in real life. Sure. So this is the big issue with teachers, is always time. And especially when you're using these strategies, and maybe this, it's not the whole school, you're just implementing these in your classroom, you can run up against the issue of time. So the important thing to consider is giving students the opportunity to express themselves in multiple languages. So one of the things that takes the most time is translating back and forth. In an ideal situation, the teacher understands both, and you can move fluently from one to another without having to translate. This is the ideal situation. In real life, I understand that teachers don't have a lot of time. But the most important thing about MLE is that we provide the opportunity for it. that we allow students to use it, and that in using MLE, the students are able to learn more efficiently. And so hopefully in another way that will save you some time, is that students are learning maybe faster, but are understanding things better. And this is applied this can be applied in the different subjects. So when students are learning something in their mother tongue, in their first language, for example, they are it's much easier for them to learn it, and in that way it should save you some time, especially when students are learning those academic concepts. On that end, it should save you. But the issue of time is really important, and I think also I'll have to think about that one a little bit outside of the webinar, and maybe provide you with some different answers about how we can use MLE and still manage our time well in the classroom. I know it's 9 o'clock. Well, sorry, it's 9 o'clock for me. But I know we are at the end of our webinar time. Should I continue, or can I do a few more questions?
Sure, Anna. Yeah, if you have time, you can continue a few more questions.
Okay, so also the questions that we don't get to today, like I can provide answers for outside of the webinar, and then we will send them, we will get this to all the participants. Let me just try one more question. Is it possible, this is interesting, is it possible to assign 2 teachers, one for the mother tongue and another for the L2? This is another strategy, that you have kind of a teacher assistant, and the teacher assistant is maybe somebody who, is fluent in the mother tongue or in the L2, and then while one teacher is teaching the lesson, that assistant teacher can help by either translating or explaining things in the other language. This is a great resource if it's possible. If it's not possible, this is another place where sometimes you can have some involvement from the community, or sometimes even a student from the classroom who is able to communicate in those 2 languages. They can kind of take on the assistant teacher role if it's appropriate, and obviously not for the whole lesson, but just for maybe some difficult concepts, or for some areas where the teacher thinks it's really important to have that support. Yeah, I think I will stop there, and I will continue to look at your questions, and I will work on those and provide some more answers.
Thank you so much, Anna. ဒီဆွေးနွေးတင်ပြပေးသွားတဲ့ဆရာမအန်နာကိုလည်းကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်တယ်ပေါ့နော်အချိန်အခက်ခဲကြောင့်ကျမတို့မိကုံးအချို့ပဲဒီနေ့တော့ဖြေချပေးသွားနိုင်တယ်ပေါ့နော်ဒါပေမဲ့ဆရာမကလည်းပြောထားပြီးသားပေါ့နော်သူအချိန်တစ်ခုယူပြီးသွားတော့ဆရာတို့ရဲ့မိကုံးလေးတွေကိုပြန်လည်ဖြေချပေးပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ကဆရာမရှိရ response ရတာနဲ့ကျမတို့email ကတစ်ဆင့်ပေါ့နော်ပြန်လည်ပြီးတော့ပေးပို့သွားပါမယ်ဆရာတို့ email တွေကိုပေါ့နော် ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါဒီနေ့ webinar ကနေပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ဒီကျောင်းသားတွေရဲ့သင်မှုအတွေ့အကြုံတွေပေါ့နော်အဓိပ္ပာယ်ပြေဝအောင်လှုပ်ဆောင်တဲ့အခါမှာ MLE ကဘယ်လောက်အရေးပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းအရာတွေကျမတို့ဆရာမရှိကနေပြီးတော့လေ့လာခဲ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ပြီးတော့လည်းကျမတို့ဒီအခြေခံဘာသာစကား theory တွေဖြစ်တယ်ပေါ့နော်ဒီ common underlying proficiency theory တို့ sociocultural theory တို့နောက်ပြီးတော့ translanguaging ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ theory တွေအကြောင်းကိုလည်းလေ့လာခွင့်ရပြီးတော့ဒီ theory တွေအရပေါ့နော် MLE ကိုကျမတို့စာသင်ခန်းမှာအကောင့်တွေပေါ်တဲ့အခါမှာဒီကျောင်းသားတွေရဲ့ဘာသာစကားဖွံ့ဖြိုးမှုကိုဘယ်လိုပံ့ပိုးပေးနိုင်လဲဆိုတဲ့ပေါ့နော်အချက်တွေကိုလည်းကျမတို့လေ့လာခဲ့ရတယ်ဒါအပြင်ပေါ့နော်ဒီမိခင်ဘာသာစကားပေါ့နော်မတူတဲ့ကျောင်းစာသင်ခန်းတွေမှာကျောင်းသားတွေရဲ့သင်ယူမှုကိုပို့ပြီးတော့ထိရောက်စေဖို့အဓိပ္ပာယ်ပြေဝစေဖို့ပေါ့နော်ဒီကျောင်းသားတွေရဲ့ဘာသာစကားနဲ့ဒီယဉ်ကျေးမှုကိုထင်ဟပ်စေတဲ့ပေါ့နော်လာရောညီထွေတဲ့သင်ကြားနည်းတွေပြီးတော့သင်ယူမှုရင်းမြစ်တွေကိုလည်းပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ပြောင်းလဲပြီးတော့အသုံးချလို့ရတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းလေးပေါ့နော်ဒီအကြောင်းအရာတွေဒီနေ့ကျမတို့လေ့လာခဲ့ကြရတာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါအပြင်ပေါ့နော်ဆရာမကသူ့ရဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ရှင်ပြီးတော့ဒီဖိလစ်ပိုင်နိုင်ငံမှာဒီ MLE နဲ့ multilingual mother tongue based ပေါ့နော် multilingual education accounted for မှုကိုလည်းကျမတို့အနေနဲ့ဗဟုသုတအနေနဲ့လေ့လာခဲ့ရပါတယ်ဒါကြောင့်မို့ဆရာမကိုယ့်ရဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံတွေကိုရောဆရာမမှာရှိထားတဲ့အသိပညာတွေအကုန်လုံးကိုပဲပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့နဲ့မျှဝေပေးတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့လဲဒီကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်လို့ပြောကြားလိုပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဟောပြောပွဲရနေပြီးတဆင့်ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ဒီ MTB-MLE နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ဒီအသိအမြင်တွေပုံမရရှိလာပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ဒီဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့ရဲ့ဒီဘာသာစကားစုံလင်ကွဲပြားတဲ့စာသင်ခန်းမှာကျောင်းသူကျောင်းသားတွေအတွက်ပေါ့နော်ပို့ပြီးတော့အဓိပ္ပာယ်ပြေဝတဲ့အကျိုးရှိတဲ့သင်မှုအတွေ့အကြုံတွေဖန်တီးနိုင်ဖို့အတွက်ပေါ့နော်အသိပညာတွေလက်တွေ့အသုံးချနိုင်တဲ့နည်းလမ်းတွေရရှိသွားမယ်လို့ကျွန်မမျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ဒီဟောပြောပွဲကိုပေါ့နော်အဆုံးထိတက်ရောက်ပေးတဲ့အတွက်လည်းကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ဆရာမရဲ့ activities တွေမှာလည်းပေါ့နော်တက်ကြွစွာပါဝင်ပေးတဲ့အတွက်ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်တယ်လို့ပြောကြားလိုပါတယ်ဒီတချို့ဆရာမတွေဆိုရင်ဒီchat box ကနေပြီးတော့လဲပို့ကြတယ်ပေါ့နော်Q&A box ကနေပြီးတော့လဲline အဆင်မပြေဘူးဒါပေမဲ့အဆုံးထိတက်ရောက်ပေးပါတယ်ဆိုပြီးတော့ပြောကြတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်လဲကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်နောက်ဆုံးအနေနဲ့ကျွန်မပြောကြားလိုတာကတော့ဒီဟောပြောပွဲနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့အနေနဲ့အချက်ပြုဆွေးနွေးချင်တာရှိတယ်ဆိုရင်မျှဝေလို့ရအောင်လို့ကျွန်မတို့ဒီ survey question ပေါ့နော်တခုပြုလုပ်ထားပါတယ်ဒီ survey မှာလည်းပါဝင်ဖြည့်ဆို့ပြီးတော့ဒီနောက်လုပ်မဲ့ပွဲတွေမှာလည်းပေါ့နော်ဟောပြောပွဲတွေမှာပို့ပြီးတော့ထိရောက်အောင်မြင်တဲ့ဟောပြောပွဲတွေစီစဉ်ဆောင်ရွက်နိုင်ဖို့အတွက်ဒီ survey လေးမှာလည်းပါဝင်ဖြည့်ဆို့ပေးကြဖို့အတွက်ကျွန်မမေတ္တာရက်ခံချင်ပါတယ်ဒီ survey ကိုတော့ကျွန်မတို့ဒီ18ရက်နေ့မှာပိတ်မှာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ပေါ့နော်18ရက်နေ့မတိုင်ခင်ပါဝင်ဆွေးနွေးပေးကြဖို့တိုက်တွန်းပြောကြားလိုပါတယ်ဒီ chat box ကနေပြီးတော့တစ်စင် survey link ကိုပို့ထားပါတယ်တခါတည်းဝင်ရောက်ပြီးတော့ဖြည့်ဆို့ပေးသွားလို့လည်းရပါတယ်ရှင်နောက်ဆုံးပေါ့နော်ဒီတက်ရောက်ပေးတဲ့အတွက်ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ဒါဆိုရင်ကျွန်မဟောပြောပွဲကိုရပ်နာလိုက်တော့မယ်နော်အားလုံးတာယာတဲ့နေ့လေးဖြစ်ပါစေရှင်ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ် Thank you very much, Anna, for your interesting presentation and discussion.